everybody's first day going? Yay! All right, well, I have sitting with me KBB's first person of the year. He was awarded that last year. It's a pretty obvious choice. He is principal of Atlanta-based Design Galleria Kitchen and Bath Studio and is planning to open a new location in Nashville later on this year. He's the author of 2 books that highlight residential spaces, and he has designed awesome products for several well-known brands in the industry. I had the good fortune of meeting you about 6 or 7 years ago, I think, when I first started with Kitchen and Bath Business Magazine, and I'm very excited to learn more about you with our conversation today.
Cool.
So let me get started.
I feel like I need a cocktail first.
Yeah, can someone help? Okay, so did you always know that you wanted to be a designer, and specifically the kitchen and bath design industry?
No, not at all. I grew up in Key West, Florida. My father was principal of the elementary school, and then when I went to middle school, became principal of the middle school, and then when I went to high school, became principal of the high school. So it literally like followed me. And we had summers off back then. The principals had summers off. So we would build or renovate a house every summer. So, yes, I was exposed to building. I was more exposed to painting and sanding and filling holes and, doing work like that. But I was exposed to it. My father wanted me. My mother was a hospice nurse. They wanted me to be a doctor.
Okay.
So I went to University of Florida.
Me too.
I know, that's right. And have a degree in chemistry, and moved to somehow I do pretty well on tests, so somehow I did well on the MCAT and was accepted to Emory in Atlanta, which is why I moved to Atlanta. And I lasted 6 days, had a total anxiety attack, knew I had no desire to be a doctor at all, and so I flew to Paris. Used my credit card, flew to Paris, called my parents from Paris, and told them that I quit. And because I knew they wouldn't come over there and kick my ass, so I quit. So they cut off my credit cards. It took me about a month to make money being a waiter and doing stuff like that to afford my ticket back. I mean, literally, they were so upset. Got back to Atlanta. And I went to Georgia Tech, because after being a month in Paris, you want to be an architect. So I went to Georgia Tech. They said nothing transferred from my chemistry degree, so you'd have to start over. So I interviewed the design schools there, and there's one design school there that 80% of the staff were architects. So they were very, very heavy into space planning. So that's what I picked. I picked that school. And my very second class of Drafting 101, the owner of Design Galleria Kitchen and Bath Studio called the school and said, I'm looking for a draftsman. And I applied for the position. He said, there was 2 people that applied for it. One of them was a freshman architecture student at Georgia Tech. But he said my smile was better than his. So I got the job and just have, honest to God, just been totally in love with kitchens ever since. I mean, to me, it's almost the closest thing, I guess, to architecture because it's so space planning concentrated. And I love, I guess, because of my chemistry background, I love the scientific part of it. Not only from the materials, but from saving time. I mean, everything, the organization, all that kind of stuff. So, no, I had no idea I was going to get into design until I finally kind of, stood up to my parents and said, no, I don't want to be a doctor.
Right. So do you prefer designing kitchens over bathrooms?
Good question. I would say they're different. Designing kitchens, I really do study the client when it comes to bad habits, good habits, the science of inventory, the science of ergonomics, how to save them time. So I get really focused on that, and then you make it pretty. Bathrooms, the function aspect is a little bit different. It's got maybe the comfort level has to be right first. I really love designing closets. That's really what I'm like 35% of my day right now is basically designing closets. And it's kind of like, I like fashion, so it's almost like designing stores. I mean, that's what my clients want. They want stores. So one of the first questions, of course, is, what's your favorite store? Is it Tom Ford? Is it Dior? Is it whatever? So then you know those stores, and you kind of design accordingly. That's what they like.
Okay. So besides the trip to Paris with no return ticket, were there any other leaps of faith you took as your career was developing?
I mean, I feel like there's leaps of faith for, just every day, honestly. But I would say the biggest leap of faith was buying the business. So I was in school for 2 years. I worked as a draftsman for 2 years. I literally was in a closet, a 4-foot wide closet. The AC was directly above me. Every time it turned on, I thought for sure it was going to crush me. And this is back, I don't know if anyone's going to remember, this is back when you had it's like a 3-foot wide board, and it had the rolling drafts, and you had the eraser. And you leave work and you're just covered in eraser bits, like old school drafting. And what was the question? Oh, so I finished school, and I'm doing actually pretty well. I'm actually loving what I'm doing. And we have a conversation with the owner, who was getting older, didn't really have a legacy plan. And we said, hey, we'd like to buy the business from you. And I think that was probably the biggest leap of faith.
Okay.
Is to really decide that this, instead of starting your own company, to buy an existing company. The company had an amazing reputation, had great products, and I think that was the biggest leap of faith. And then the arrangement was, because again, I was totally poor. What we did is, he asked me, what is the minimum you can live on? And I think it was like $22,000. And everything I made over that would go towards a down payment on the business. So after, I think it was 5 years, I had saved enough money to give him a down payment. And then it took us, I guess, 3 years to buy it outright. He held the note and buy it outright. So that was, it was 8 years of like making nothing.
Right.
But God, it was so worth it. So I would say that's the biggest leap of faith.
Yeah. Okay. So you're a kitchen and bath designer, but you also design a number of products. Can you talk about how you got involved with that, and maybe some of your favorite brand relationships?
Sure. I am very blessed to have great clients, and a lot of them want products that solve a very specific problem, or they want products that no one else has. So therefore, I was already kind of designing one-offs. And some of these things worked so well that it just made sense for, to have them mass marketed and take them to a manufacturer. So my first product was it was the corner sink. I had designed that 10 years ago, and I could not find a manufacturer. We went down many, many companies, and so many of them just did not understand it. And that was, I think, I work with 8 companies right now. I have licenses with 8 companies right now, and I think Julian Home Improvements was maybe the 7th. So it took me 7 companies until I finally got that deal. But my first deal was with MTI Baths. They're right there in Swanee, Georgia. Russell Adams is the owner, and he is similar in that, like, he's super creative, and he loves to dabble in things, and he's always sketching like I am, and he just wants to constantly do something new. And that was my first. I saw his collection of bathtubs. I love a factory tour, so what I like to do with all the manufacturers, my licensing partners, is I like to go and visit the factory and kind of see what they think their limitations are. And I guess because of my background with my dad building houses, I could see like, oh, you know what, I think they could probably go a little further than what they're thinking. And I will design products that kind of push that. And with Russell and MTI Baths, I kind of did that. And we came up with some amazing bathtubs and sinks, and have a new one coming out very shortly that will save marriages. I'm just saying that. It's in the bathroom. It's going to save marriages. So I've got something coming out with him. And then from that, Art for Every Day, Francois and Company has my hood collections. Sun Valley Bronze Hardware. Hayfala has hardware with me. La Cornu. I have a new modern range coming out with La Cornu. Acto, a tile collection with Acto. So it's fun. I am always sketching. I have 3 notebooks full of product that don't even have a home yet.
Right.
I'm just always sketching things.
Yeah.
So.
And I talked to you about this, I think, when I visited your showroom in Atlanta before. You said something about maybe not liking product design better, but you said it was different somehow.
They definitely go hand in hand. Like, I actually think you are a better product designer if you keep your foot in design. Like, if you're just designing product, you're not having an interface with the client and seeing all the challenges that they have. So I like doing both. I probably like, at this point, how long have I been doing this? 26 years. At this point, I like probably product design better because it doesn't talk back. It doesn't email me. It doesn't, it's me and the product, and I'm not having to deal with clients, as amazing as they are. I'm not having to deal with the client so much.
Yeah. Okay. So what's the best advice you've ever given? Maybe I'll start out with what's the best advice you ever received, and then in turn that you've given.
My dad, he lived by the golden rule, taught all of us children to live by the golden rule. Treat others as you want to be treated. In everything, we always put ourselves in that other person's shoes, and however we're acting to them, expect to be, reciprocated. And it so much so, like my own team, they will literally tell me this. They're like, why do you try so hard to save your rich clients money? And it's because I put myself in their shoes and want to make sure that they see value in what we're providing to them, and they see value in the products that we're specifying. So to me, it's always the golden rule as far as the best advice I've been given. I literally live by it.
Right. So would you say that is the best advice you've given too?
Given probably what I'm preaching more than anything to our team is, and even our clients, is to think long-term, not short-term. Think about, yes, this is an expensive room that we're renovating, but really think long-term about it. Mm-hmm. Select materials that are more sustainable, select materials that are high quality, that are going to perform well, that have a great reputation. Even social media, the book, like going through business, going through life, just always thinking long-term and not satisfying an itch right now, but thinking more long-term about it. So it's probably what I preach more than anybody, and say, okay, now what's this decision going to look like in 5 years? How are you going to think about this decision in 5 years?
Okay.
My dad, again, it always goes back to my dad. I don't know why, but my 2 sisters, I'm the oldest. We had to put in our rooms, this sounds cruel, but we had to put a plan A, B, and C on poster board starting at age 7. And we had to do that all the way through high school. So we had to plan A, B, and C and make sure that we followed that plan. And if something happened, like we, got a B, for God's sake, then what happens? And you go to plan B, that type of thing. So we follow those plans all the way through. And obviously, that is ingrained in me, that I'm always thinking that plan A, B, and C, and always thinking, a few steps ahead.
Right. Okay. So
is that cruel?
Yeah.
Does that sound cruel? A 7-year-old, and I go to college. Right.
No, I think that shapes you into who you're going to be, and prepares you for a lot of the stresses that you have when you get older too. So you're more prepared than I'm sure a lot of us are. So what stands out as a couple of the really really great projects you've worked on? I know we've got some pictures of some, but what stand out in your mind as like really great achievements?
Yeah, I am asked that question often, and for whatever reason, I never think of the project. I always think of the people.
Okay.
I have to be so connected to the person that lives in that space. I mean, I think that's why I am not a formulaic designer. Every one of these images look like it maybe not look like the same designer because they're so different looking. They look like the person living there. So I think about the people. There's an image on here, and I meant to catch Jill before she left. It's the cover of Traditional Home right now. And it's a beautiful blue and white traditional kitchen in McLean, Virginia. And this client, I did her house in Atlanta, and she has an autoimmune disease it's eating her lung cells, basically. So when I met her in Atlanta, she only had 17% lung capacity. And it was the first house where we were, and of course, being a scientist, every little decision had to be thought about as far as the air quality, the outgassing, like everything in that kitchen. And she is the most beautiful woman, the most kind woman, the most fun woman. She has such great taste. And then she moved to McLean to be closer to her grandchild. And we did the same process, but it was a house from scratch. So I was advising on everything about that house, how to build this house so it was healthy for her. And she's not doing very well. She has been in the house about a year now. And I meant to tell Jill that she's on she got the cover of Traditional Home. And it's like, I don't expect her to last more than a couple weeks. There it is right there. I don't expect her to last more than a couple weeks. And I was able to deliver that cover, that magazine to her last Monday. And I just put such a huge smile on her face. And of course, a huge smile on my face. So, sorry. But to get back to it, it's really about the people. It's about those challenges. It's about all the different personalities. I mean, I did the largest single-family residence in Hong Kong. I mean, that was amazing. There was 20 bathrooms and 5 kitchens.
Wow.
Absolutely amazing. So much fun. We have lots of projects in Bermuda right now. Just finished one in Belize. So I love all that different architecture and different influences. But at the same time, like there's a charity in Atlanta called Meals on Wheels that serves food to the elderly. And they just asked us to design their kitchens and make them fun for all the volunteers that come in to interact with that. And that's like, I'm so excited about that because it's very different than the typical kind of residential kitchen. So, I mean, I have a 2,000 square foot closet right now in Dallas, Texas that's 2 floors high. So much fun. We designed a glass staircase in the middle of it. She has 970 pairs of shoes.
Oh my God.
So like I'm super excited. That gets installed in about 2 months. It took 4 years to get to this point. And so things like that, yeah, they get me excited. So I like doing things different, clearly.
Yeah. So in terms of your international projects, like how does that work? How do they find you? How are you able to make the time for that when you're based here?
I'm always on the road. The Hong Kong project came from the Sub-Zero Wolf. I won the Sub-Zero Wolf first place national prize. I think it was in 2005, 2006, I think. So I was very young, won that first place prize. Somehow, the American designer, interior designer, saw the kitchen, and we installed that exact kitchen as one of the 5. It was a 5-story house, and every floor, it was like a massive family.
Wow.
So every floor had a different kitchen look. And ever since then, the book has a ton to do with it. The book, the exposure of the book, doing show houses like Kips in New York City, the house Beautiful Homes, the one in Nashville, one in Atlanta. So a lot of that has been really great.
Yeah.
That exposure has been great.
Okay.
And we're so used to doing 70% of my work is outside of the state of Georgia. We're so used to it. We make it like the client really doesn't know. I mean, we send them iPads, we do FaceTime calls, like all this stuff it's so easy for them. So what? You're not sitting next to me in Atlanta. We can still absolutely do business together.
Right. So, in terms of the book you just mentioned, how did you become interested in becoming an author, and talk a little bit about the 2 books you have out there and what you might have for the future with those?
Oh, motivation for doing the book. I had some very special projects. It is, I mean, let's be real, it's like the most expensive brochure ever. So it's to get business, period. The first book was 15 projects, 15 kitchens. It was meant to kind of pull the curtain back on the process of how I think, and maybe some guidelines about axis, centers line, textures, ergonomic, like all the things that go through my mind when I'm designing a kitchen. And in the back of the book, I put my favorite things. So it's kind of my Bible of the products that I love using. The second book, Quintessential Kitchens and Spaces, I added bathrooms and closets to it. And that, obviously, I'm not going to repeat the same things that I repeated in the first book, so I used the client process a little bit more. I used what their influence was, what they asked of me is kind of becomes part of the process. And then to make it a little bit different, my actually favorite part of the book is 6 of the 15 clients, in their own words, talk about the process and their favorite things about the kitchen or the bathroom or the closet. They, in their own words, talk about the story in the back. It's actually quite long, but there's a lot of emotion. Actually, the client in traditional home is in the back. And I'd say half of them, it's not even, like one of them is like a piece of furniture that I had nothing to do with, but I fit it. Like they told me about it, and I found a place for it and fit it in theirs. Some of it is just about the love that, you know, I gave them like the social corner sink. I gave them a place for their children, for they can see exactly what the sink is supposed to do. They can see eye to eye, have a conversation. They're having more family time because of the kitchen. It's not really the aesthetics of it, or, you know, I don't love the knob or the light fixture that he picked, but it's really just exactly the point of it, the feeling, the saving time. That's what they love about it.
So what excites you the most about being a kitchen and bath designer? Like, where do you find your inspiration?
I mean, I just said it. Honestly, like, we, again, probably because of my scientific background, but we inventory everything. So I like to go and visit my client in their existing kitchen, and either breakfast or dinner. Breakfast typically is the most chaotic, so I kind of like breakfast, and plus I go to bed at 9 o'clock, so I don't really want to be at a client's house at 7 o'clock. So breakfast, great. I go over there at breakfast, and I just see all the chaos. I see people bumping into each other. I see just everything that's a mess typically at breakfast. And we study all this. We ask the client, there's a good 2-hour interview. We ask them, tell me in the next 5 times you cook, tell me how many times you go to the refrigerator, to the cooktop, or refrigerator to the sink. Tell me how many times you open the dishwasher. Do you clean as you go, or it all piles in the sink? Like all these types of questions. And just like if you were, let's say you're designing a floor, or you're designing a ceiling for yourself, you're going to walk through Las Vegas, and you're going to be looking down, or you're going to be looking up, because in the moment, you know you're designing that thing for you. So if you tell your clients these specific questions, like, I need you to pay attention to this, 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 and this, they will, and they won't even realize how many times they walk to the refrigerator, or how many times they walk to the trash can, you know, whatever it may be. So they pay attention, they give you that information, and it's really just a matter of, you know, analyzing it and figuring out the best plan, figuring out where everything goes. Some clients, they will tell you, some clients are organized. period. Fine, great. Just find a place for it, make it, their new kitchen. Some clients will tell you they want to be organized, and maybe you do. If you give them a Tupperware drawer and a slot on the side with dividers for all the lids, they'll follow it. And then there's the clients that tell you they want to be organized, but they are messes. Like, they can't. Even if you do that Tupperware lid space, they never go up there. It's all over the place. There's aluminum foil and dish towels in there, and it's a mess. So you got to then think, you have to find that out before you design the kitchen for them. Are they going to stick to it or not? And what you go to their closet. I mean, that's always a great place to look. And you see how messy their closet is. Or you open their drawers in their bathroom, you see how messy they are. And if they're really, really trying, is it because they don't have a home for it or a place for it, or is it because they're just not like me? So, long answer to your question. I really get excited about fixing that. If I can, some you can't fit. Well, no, that's not true. Like the Tupperware thing, you don't do all those dividers. You just have a Tupperware drawer. I call it an electric room. Like, you create a room next to the kitchen that all those appliances are, because they're never going to put away all the stuff that's in the kitchen. So you create an electric room. There's plugs all the way down the whole back, and all their stuff is plugged in and just sitting there. And they can shut the door, and it's just a mess in there. Just a mess. And their kitchen will still look nice. So you have to think through those things. So anyway, I get really excited about fixing what I can fix. I get really excited about saving time. I get really excited about a client who maybe is totally burnt out of cooking because they hate their kitchen so much. It's so messy. My husband doesn't like coming in here with me because we are always bumping into each other. Whatever it may be, they hate it. And if you fix that and all of a sudden they're cooking together again, the kids are part of it, they're interacting, they're facing the right way, they're butt to the audience kind of thing. All that kind of stuff is happening. You fix that, that makes me, I did my job, and that makes me so happy.
Okay, so let's talk about your new showroom. What made you decide to, as Nashville, for the city? How did that come about?
Well, Nashville is, it's on fire. It's booming. We've always done a lot of business there. We actually were going to open a showroom there 2005 maybe, and it was going to be in a high-rise. They dug the hole for the high-rise, and then the recession came. So we just put the brakes on it. It really kind of all the stars aligned. I met Richard Anaskevich and Anne Puricelli, who I've known for years with La Cornue. She, if any of you have the first book, her kitchen was the orange La Cornue kitchen in the first book. And she was, that kitchen is in Nashville, and she is like awesome. And with everything going on with La Cornue, we thought about doing business together and talked to Richard about being our lead designer of that showroom, and it just kind of all worked out beautifully. Anne and I went shopping for a space. We were looking for like a 3,000 square foot space in Nashville, and we ended up falling in love with a 45,000 square foot space. So we bought this massive mop factory. That's literally what it was, and we divided it into 14 showrooms, and now it's Nashville's design center, and we're one of the spaces, of course. And that's just so fun to bring that, because Nashville needs that. It's growing so fast. It needed a design center, and we're just super excited about that. It's kind of fun being a developer.
Right. So they did the announcement of the Innovative Showroom Awards, the overall winner. So what would you say for this new showroom? Like, what's the innovation there?
Well, if any of you know Richard Anaskevich, he's perfect for Nashville. Nashville's very dynamic. Nashville, they call it Nash Vegas. Right. It's got a little bling. It's got a celebrity kind of star power to it, and it's very fashionable. So Richard is like perfect for that. So I think what this showroom brings, and Richard designed the monogram booth in the central. So you'll see kind of some of his aesthetics. So it's definitely a marriage of Richard style and the Design Galleria brand as a whole. So it is pushing the boundaries of what kitchens are. There's closets, there's bathrooms, and there's kitchens. And it is all just like the book, all different looks. Technology is incorporated into it. We do virtual reality with our rendering. We do renderings and we do virtual reality with our clients. So all that's integrated into it. It's going to be a very light space, truly like residential kitchens. I mean, they are real ceilings. There's no drop tile, any of that. I mean, every single space is like a real residential kitchen.
Right.
So he's doubled the budget, of course. Yeah.
Of course. So will you be hosting any kind of like community events or anything
For
like
sure,
that?
yeah. So it was fun. I got to design the whole design center, of course. So I designed this big lounge area that has a stage, has all these, we call them nooks. They're like these little rolling homes that can be rolled around that 4 people can meet in. There's real comfortable furniture. It's very loungy. The whole building is be painted at black. It's very, very Nashville. So yeah, it will be a legit design center with functions, events, just a great place. There's not in Nashville, there's just not a location where designers can meet, have events hosted that are design oriented. So we're glad to be able to provide that.
So up to now, what would you say has been your greatest achievement?
For sure, the team that we have assembled. So we have 34 in our firm, and many of them have been there at least 15 years. And they, as all the designers in this room, I can't do it without them. They are all totally committed to providing excellent service to the clients. They're all very creative in their own right. They're all so intelligent. So I thank God for my husband, Rick, because he handles really keeping them there and keeping them happy.
You don't do that.
I just don't. Well, I just don't. I'm keeping my clients happy. That's like a full-time job. Keeping the clients happy. So Rick is he's the listener to the, and it's nice to be able to have. I mean, to have, we work together, and this team they're amazing. I have a total of 5 designers, plus myself. They're all very different, but we all have that same end game, and it's making fixing those solutions and making that client happy, doing whatever it takes to make them happy. So definitely our biggest achievement is, keeping this core group together. And it's very important for me that they love to come to work every single day.
Yeah, I mean, that's what everybody wants,
right? All right.
Yeah. So let's talk about lessons learned as you've grown your brand and your business. What's something you can tell us that you learned through the years?
I think every time I think I need to discount my services in order to get the job, I always regret it later. So all of us, when you've been doing something a long time, you can't forget how your experience makes you so much faster and so much better. And I mean, I can literally in 1 hour completely, fix a kitchen that may take someone that's new to the business in a day to do. So to me, it's definitely about establishing you can't be everything to everybody. So sticking firm, this is what I'm providing a valuable service, and sticking to it and not discounting yourself. I'd say that's that's for whatever reason that kind of stands out. Like
Right.
when I have done that, I've really like kicked myself later. Well, why did I do that?
Right.
I'm worth it. Maybe this client is just doesn't understand that. Then they're not my client,
Right.
and another one will come. Uh, I'd say sometimes I get frustrated with kind of maybe copycat designers, and I am trying to learn. It is an ongoing process. I'm trying to learn that what is it? Flattery is
Right.
yeah.
Well, I was gonna say, if a client sees a picture of one of your kitchens, and it has a different designer and says, "I
Right.
want it to look like this guy's kitchen."
Yeah, and so like
That-
I've gone around the country when I go on the book tour and stuff. I'm always speaking to designers, and that happens and designers will tell me that happens all the time. And I tell them, you are the designer. You put your mark on it. You
Right.
put your edge on it, and the client will respond to that. Like, don't just carbon copy something.
Right.
Inspiration's great, but everyone kind of uses this word inspiration, and it's literally like, it's not.
Mm-hmm.
It's, they're just copying exactly. But so I'm trying to learn that. I will tell you, it's hard.
Right.
It's hard. It's yeah. I put the book out there, of course, but it's to inspire and to empower and to lead by example. That, and the whole point of the book is that those spaces look like the people that live there. So other designers, it's not the same person living there. So
Right.
make it look like that person, not just something that you see in a book or in a magazine or
Right.
online. Make it look like that person. Take these extra steps to make it look that way. And when I do speak to designers, I give them ideas of how to make it look like them. And one of them is, like I said, I always go into their closet. Always.
Right.
I always study what they wear. And that's a perfect way. I mean, that is what people do. We put these costumes on every day because it's a representation of how we feel or how we want to feel that day or what we like. So do the same thing when it comes to spaces.
Yeah. So in terms of your clients, have you through the years come across some that are just not going to work out, and like, what does that look like? How do you have that conversation?
Yeah, I mean, I have a client right now. I met once in Palm Beach, and the way he spoke to, I actually thought they were married. The way he spoke to his girlfriend, within 30 minutes decided I can't be part of this. It's not I'm not going to be the person that's going to be like, you shouldn't speak to your girlfriend that way, because I've just met them 30 minutes ago, but I just decided I don't need to be part of this.
Right.
So then I found out that they've only been dating 2 months, so it's like, wow, you're speaking to this. Other than that, I've had clients that had horrible taste. So it would take, I'd get a design. How we work is I get a retainer, basically. So before I start working with somebody, I get a substantial retainer. And maybe 2 or 3 meetings into it, everything I show them, they're like, no, I like this. And it typically is because it's too Fabergé egg, or
Okay.
it's just too, I'm just not that guy.
Right.
And I will just refund them their money and say, I'm just not a good fit for you.
Yeah.
I mean, you never burn a bridge. I'm trying to remember. I think maybe once I just chickened out and I just priced the job really high so I didn't get it. But most of the time we'll just say we're just not a good fit.
Yeah.
But
And
no,
they seem
it
to
happens,
understand.
and you got to, I'm a big believer of, listen to those red flags. You see one red flag, maybe if you're needing that work, let maybe a second one go up, but after that second one, do not take that job.
Yeah.
Because they're just going to be, you're going to have the United Nations flying.
Right. So what does the future hold for you?
Well, more product design. I'm going to save marriages with this new sink. All right, wrap it up.
Good timing.
That's right. I've got a new faucet that I think is going to revolutionize cleanup. I have totally enjoyed developing a design center. So there may be other cities that have that same kind of gap in the market as far as luxury design center in a certain city that's kind of growing quickly. So I mean, I'm kind of loving the developer thing. Product design, and then of course, like I said, I think it's very important that I'm always designing spaces.
Right.
And it just keeps me grounded and understanding the daily challenges that our clients are faced with.
Right. Okay. So that concludes our discussion. Does the audience have some more questions for Matthew? Don't be shy.
Hi. I wanted to know when the design center is opening, and is it all interior and home type design, or does it cover a broader range? Is there fashion? Is there other product design?
So the building is open. There's 3 showrooms open, and everyone else is kind of building out right now. And like ours is, we just got framed. It is all design and construction. It's all, fabrics, furniture. But because I'm influenced by fashion and art, I created these displays in the front of the building. We call them pop-up displays, but they're these boxes that local fashion designers, local artists, jewelry designers, there's actually some amazing wood sculptors in Nashville. So they'll have their products in the lobby, kind of like a museum. So the interior designers and the architects and the homeowners that come into this center, it's not just about being inspired or influenced by home products, but they'll see the relationship between fashion, art, jewelry, in part of the inspiration. Anybody else?
I was interested in your book and how you said at the end of the book you had some of your favorite things for kitchen design. As a kitchen designer, would you mind sharing some of those right now?
Sure. I mean, I talk about my favorite appliances. I talk about stone and how I'm madly in love with stone. So it's usually one of the first things. I pick the floor first, and the stone is second. I travel all over the country. There's different stone quarries and stone suppliers that I love to use that bring in the most exotic stones. I talk about hardware. I talk about hoods, talk about color, where I use color. But, I'd say one of the reasons I didn't put it in this, the second book was 2.5 years after the first book. And I just felt like most of those things it's kind of like I said, it's like the Bible, my Bible. A lot of those things did not change. And I just feel like they're kind of tried and true. And there's lighting, there's all kinds of things in there. But it's those manufacturers, those brands that I always go to. Okay?
I actually have both of your books, and I'm curious because it seems like corners are your enemy. You try to avoid corners in most of your designs, at least I assume so, to form symmetry. Mm-hmm. How do you convince people to give up that space and so you can create those really great focal points?
Good question. There are products, you'll see that, I know you know of them, miracle corners and kidney corners, and there's kind of ways to use these corners. A lot of times, I have found if you get on your knees and show a client what it takes to get into those corners, or how things, when you inventory their current kitchen, and they realize the things back in that corner are things they have never used or forgot that are even there. It's almost like that Marie Kondo way, like, let's just get rid of the corner so you don't stick things there that you're not going to use. Or you just use those great miracle corners, what are they, kidney corners, Le Mans corner, all these things that kind of use those corner spaces. Symmetry, I am better at asymmetry after my trip to Japan. I'm still, though, generally a fairly symmetrical person because it just brings a sense of calmness to most of my clients. There are some that we can achieve that sense of peace with asymmetry, but it is very difficult, especially with a kitchen. It's very difficult. Did I answer you? Okay. Thank you for getting 2 books.
Matthew, I love what you said about the kitchens are inspired by the people that you work for. What was the inspiration for the Kips Bay show house, which was done in that beautiful old mansion?
Yeah, so show houses, you have to show houses are unique in that you have to figure out who you think is going to live there or who is that person. And I have to connect to a personality. The Kips Bay Show House was this amazing mansion attached to I think it's called the mansion, right? The hotel attached to, yeah. It's directly across the street from St. Patrick's Cathedral. It's the 2nd floor of this building. And it was an amazing space. It was walnut herringbone floors that were already there and all these moldings, gorgeous space. So I had to picture who would kind of live there. And I definitely, clearly the person is extremely wealthy. This person's very right into the city scene. They love to entertain and cook. So that's kind of what I designed that space for. Most of my spaces are typically masculine, but there's definitely feminine materials or feminine colors introduced in that too. So it can kind of go both ways. I remember there's this, I don't have a picture here, but there's this beautiful mullion pattern on these dish hutches that I did. And it literally, if you look across the street, it's the same mullion pattern in the St. Patrick's Cathedral and the windows there. And I kind of just took that, put it into a mullion pattern on these dish hutches, and then did them in high gloss lacquer to kind of make it not so traditional. There's these light fixtures in the windows that are hollow tubes, and I sliced the tubes on an angle. And I think I did them in acrylic, polished nickel, and brass. And they look like the pipes, the organ pipes at St. Patrick's Cathedral. That was kind of the inspiration there. And then I had these big circular light fixtures that had holes in them. They looked like something from the deep sea. But I had a client come in, not a client, a visitor come in. I think there was 20,000 people came to that show house. And I was telling them the story about the organ pipes and the St. Patrick's Cathedral mullion pattern. They said, "Oh, did you pick these lights because they look like the incense that the altar boys carry down the aisles? You know how those things?" And I was like, "No, but I love that. Maybe I did. I didn't realize it." So yeah, I definitely always, in all these show houses, I probably do 1 a year, sometimes 2. It gives me an opportunity to express myself or exactly without any kind of bias from the client. But it allows me to do that, and I always do picture who lives there. Is it a family? Is it a single person? Is it an entertainer? Is it a bachelor? Like this picture right here is a bachelor. That type of thing.
Awesome.
I think we have time for one more.
Hello.
Hi.
So my question is, you mentioned that when you got into product design, that you got a lot of your inspiration from obviously the needs of your clients. I came from a background where I did commercial and restaurants, and I started doing kitchens and bathrooms and closets in the last nine years, I suppose. You said that when you came up with the design, that you approached several different companies. I met Kim Lewis a few years ago, and she said the same thing, that she was struggling with, she would find, she would want to come up with a design, and then she would have nobody to make it. What was that end result? Like, what did you have to present to a company or manufacturer in the U.S.? So I'm from Thunder Bay, Ontario, Canada. We have to obviously look at other companies outside of Canada because we don't have places manufacturers that can make a lot of things. Mm-hmm. What would you suggest for a designer that's that has a design? Or not to go through all the steps that you did.
Well, I mean,
for
I
how
think
many years, I
it
don't know.
always, did everybody hear the question? Kind of like the process of working with a licensing partner. It definitely helps if you already specify their product. You already have a relationship with that company. And what you see is you love this company so much, but they don't have this. You know what that gap is. It could be, I mean, with La Cornue, I can't even believe that I convinced the French to let me take their iconic piece, from 1908 and let me design a modern range. Like, I can't even believe they allowed an American to, mess with their product. But they were losing sales to more modern versions of that range. Acto Tile, I mean, all the companies that I work with, I noticed there were just some gaps. Like, I couldn't find everything I needed from that company. So you present them with a solution and you say, hey, I know that I can sell this, I can specify this, and I know other people that will be able to do the same thing. I think it fills a void in your product offering. And you just have a really real conversation. You do have to be careful. We have NDAs, non-disclosures, signed before I present the drawings to them, and that does make them a little skittish, but it is the best way to protect yourself. It's not a big deal. I'm a believer in everything should be on one page. As soon as it starts going to 2 and 3 pages, people get very nervous. So just make something short and sweet on one page. Meet with that person at that manufacturer, show them your design, show them that you want to sell more of their product, that you want to fix a problem that they have, that you think they have, and you may get a deal that way. So it's not as you don't have to go out and hire a brand agent and I just don't believe you have to do that. I think you can work one-on-one with the manufacturer, and everything works better that way.
Well, thank you all so much for joining us today, and thank you so much, Matthew, for
Thank you all for
providing all
coming.
this
Thank
great
you.
information.
Thank you.